Hi, I'm Tlish, and you're watching Coffee and Clicks. If you enjoy my content, please like and subscribe, and click on the link tree found in the description of this video for links to my media content. Enjoy, and don't forget, wake up and smell the clicks. Hi, I'm Tlish, and you're watching Coffee and Clicks. Don't forget, everybody, thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy my content, and follow the link tree. Click on that link tree in the description of this video to find links to all of my media content. And today we are joined by Kalder, Ness, and Simeon Bruce from Dial H For Heroclix. Welcome, guys. How are you doing?
Howdy, Anthony. It's glad to be here. Appreciate it.
Yes, good to be visible for my very auditory-based community.
That's right. It's very true. They're not used to seeing our faces, so this is fun. This is fun.
So yeah, man, I wanted to ask you about that because so you guys run a podcast normally. It is called Dial H For Heroclix, and I mean, do you want to talk a little bit about like how it originated? I mean, I know it's based on, the name comes from Dial H For Hero, which is a comic book. I'm not personally too familiar with what Dial H For Hero is about, like what that comic book is about. But I mean, do you guys want to talk about it a little bit?
You know, we can go into that a little bit. And
yeah.
then I'll let Kalder tackle the mythos that is Dial H For
the
Heroclix.
Lore. Yeah, by all means. Because I have never, I'll be honest, I have not read Dial H For Hero either. I don't read a lot of DC unless it's Lantern stuff. So I'll let Simeon.
Yeah.
Take that,
I don't read a ton of it, but I've picked up a few trades. And so Dial H For Hero it's based around this like rotary phone, except it's magic, and you dial HERO and you turn into a hero for like a certain amount of time. And sometimes, I think there's a few times where it was an actual hero that already existed and you would just like gain their powers and outfit. Other times it was just an excuse for writers to kind of make stuff up. But it's just like a fun, not too serious comic. And really, I mean, that's all that is. We've got the Robbie Reed and the H dial in Heroclix. And so it's very reminiscent. That dial, the H dial, is very, very comic accurate, pretty fun if that's like the kind of thing that you're going for. But that's pretty much where the connection as far as that goes with me ends.
Okay. So the show, it's not like a lot of other podcasts or Heroclix content even. The show was originally started by these three guys, Andrew Alderson, Austin, and Hunter Smith. And they were just like three buddies, recorded the podcast. This is when I listened to the show a ton. This is like my all-time favorite Heroclix thing. This is like 2013 or something like that, right? So I don't know what else was even a Heroclix pod, like Clixcast and like Duo Attack or something else that's dead, you know? So I love these guys. Love listening to them. Wrote into the show a bunch. But around episode 60 or so, you know, maybe it was like a little more than that, around 70. Hunter Smith had a kid. Austin Smith. Austin Smith was a loser. I don't know how to say that like politely, but like they constantly ragged on him on the show. He was probably a good player, but man, they made fun of this dude endlessly. But they moved on from the show. So that's like the end of the first like era, the first generation, right? Second generation is Drew Alderson is now hosting the show, and Chris Britton and Harry Dempsey are his new co-hosts. Harry Dempsey stays on the show for a good 10, 15 episodes or so, and then he leaves. So then it's just Chris and Drew for a really long time. Then comes August of 2017, where they have me on the show as a guest for the first time, just like listener guest, whatever, right? And Drew was like, man, I really like this guy. Let's have him again on the show. You know, they want to go back to that 3-person format since Harry left. I film about 2 or 3 episodes with Drew, Chris, and myself. And then this is when, and it was around, what's it called? Mighty Thor was coming out. So the rules were changing, little to our knowledge, not as drastically as they would change today. But the rules were still changing and a lot of people were getting out of the game. So then Drew got out of the game at that point. And then it was Chris and I for the longest time. So I would be a 3rd generation Dial H For Heroclix host. And this is a very long-winded tale. But Chris and I were hosts for about until I think July or August of September of 2019, I believe. So me and Chris had about 2 years of shows we did. And then Chris joined the military. And so he left the show to me. And then I was like, well, there's this one guy who I've seen a couple of times. We had a HeroClix rivalry because for the longest time we would like beat each other out, and it wasn't top 8 even, was it?
No,
but
it was like
we just had a rivalry for some
bottom of
reason.
Swiss.
Yeah.
We'd always get paired out and be like, oh, I'm gonna beat you this time.
Yeah.
Really matters this match.
Yeah, and the reason the rivalry was huge because the first time I ever saw this guy was in South Dakota States. I was wearing my cowboy hat and my boots like I always do, and I could tell just by him looking at me, he didn't think I was a real cowboy, and he was like, "You're one of them sissy city cowboys, ain't you?" And yeah, we had this
Still not
very
sold on it.
It was this very weird energy when we were at the subway line that year, getting lunch in between rounds, where I could tell he was like, "I hate this guy's guts," and so. Yeah,
and Kalder was like, "Hey, you want to put that on my subway card? Hey, you want to put that on my subway card?"
I did because I remember that. I go to Subway a lot. Yeah, there's like 4 or 5 people from the venue eating Subway that day. Anyways, back to the main story. And then I was like, you know what? I'll have Simeon on as a host because he's a super funny guy. I enjoyed talking to him. I've played against him several times, especially in nationals where he beat me, but my team beat him, so we had to go on, which was great. But yeah, that's how it went down. So that's the whole story of Dial H For Heroclix. We are in the 4th generation legacy of Dial H For Heroclix. This is one of the only Heroclix anythings content creators that has been like going on for this long, really, this consistently. And now it has none of the people at all that started it are now in charge, which is crazy. And we're doing better than ever. So that was my long. I promise I won't answer the rest of these questions as long-winded. But yeah, that
was a great and very informative answer because I had no idea like that there was so much history behind the show.
A lot of newer listeners just kind of assume because in HeroClix and HeroClix podcasting, there's so much news and so much. Like, if you were going to listen to a podcast, you'd never listen to something from 2017 today. It's just not applicable with rotation and rules changes and just like meta shifts, new sets, everything like that. There's not a lot to be desired in listening to old content, especially as like a new listener to a show. And so I think a lot of new listeners come in just assuming that like it's always been me and Kalder. And in reality, Kalder's been there over twice as long as I have, and I'm relatively new to it still. But I like to think that we're not just keeping the legacy alive, but we're keeping in theme with like the original show, and we're keeping it light, keeping it fun, and we're still making good content, in my opinion. So
like if you were to give your mission statement for the show, or like what your goals are for the show, what would they be?
So basically what the main guys did was they wanted it to feel like you were like part of the family, right? It was 3 really good friends, a guy and his cousin and their like best friend. And they just wanted to feel like you could sit down, have a beer, eat some pizza, and it would just feel like a discussion with your bros, So what I want the show to be is just fun. I think if we would have became like a hardcore meta podcast, that would have totally deviated from what these guys are about. These guys are about just laughing, having a good time, having fun, making stuff that was unique and just didn't feel like no other show seemed to like fill the part of it, right? So it's just like I wanna give Simeon, grief every single show. I wanna rile him up. He wants to rile me up. We just want to joke around and pal around. And I think that's what it's all about. I don't think we should take HeroClix too seriously. We should just have fun, roll dice, play games, keep it light. That to me, that's what Dial H has always been.
Yeah. I come to it from a slightly different perspective because I only listened to Dial H when it was Kalder and Chris. And I'm like still in the grand scheme of HeroClix pretty new. It's like 6 years that I've been playing now, but still like relatively new to the game as a whole. But I approach Dial H from the HeroClix aspect. I want to keep it casual. I want there to be an avenue and something that's different than like constant meta talk. I get like that's what's easiest to talk about because that's what constantly shifts and changes. But I like keeping stuff light. I like giving like little hints and tips. I like all that stuff. And then from the other aspect, just as like an avid podcast fan, I really want the show to hit like all the metrics that I expect from a good podcast. I want like engaging, interesting, I want there to be like a conversation happening and not necessarily feel like I'm engaged in it or like I'm inside the conversation, but like it's a conversation that I want to listen to. And so it's like a weird cross between what I want out of HeroClix personally and what I want out of podcasts also personally, because those are two things that I enjoy a lot. And so when I mesh them, I kind of want to make the best of both. But yeah, that's what like my mission statement for Dial H would be. And I think, especially with our YouTube, because there's only so much you can do with the audio medium. I think with our YouTube, we've really made like some pretty decent roads in what a HeroClix content creation can do. There's a lot of like wacky stuff that we've done.
We're pushing the bounds a little bit over on YouTube.
Yeah, I mean,
but,
speaking of which, I just watched your episode, Calder. You had an unboxing where WW80 Wonder Woman 80th anniversary unboxing where you were smashing and destroying Supermen and Mary Shazam's. Every time you pulled a Superman, you took a hammer and you actually physically destroyed it. And you were saying you were going to destroy all the characters that you hate. So what is your hatred? Where does that stem from? The hatred.
We also have to ask about his Fantastic Four Cosmic Clash.
That was good. So we have little nuggets hidden everywhere in the Fantastic Four unboxing. I'll cover that first because that one's really simple. All I ever heard about since I began the game of HeroClix back in like 2012 was when's the next Fantastic Four going to come out? And I will get to that Superman question in a second. Sorry. It's like, when's the Fantastic Four going to come out? It's been years since we had Human Torch and whatever. And I was so sick and tired of hearing about it. And then when they announced it, Fantastic Four coming back, I've never been a Fantastic Four fan. I was like, the thing is cool. It's clobbering time, whatever. Honestly, when the movie came out in 2015, I became the biggest fan of that movie because I know people hated it. And I would constantly show it to people and I would be like, yo, Fan Four Stick is the best movie ever made, But I was just so sick and tired of people complaining about not having the Fantastic Four because I never read a Fantastic Four book. So I actually won in an online tournament that Cosmic Clash starter set. And if you haven't yet, you definitely check out the video. But in the beginning, I just go like, man, I hate the Fantastic Four. And then it cuts to me back on the ranch. I say pull. I've got my shotgun. My brothers, they throw the Cosmic Clash starter set, and I do, it's a double barrel, so I pull both triggers at the same time, and I just obliterate the starter set. And then I do an unboxing of it as if WizKids' quality control was bad, and I'm pulling out the pieces and the HeroClix stuff, and it's really fun. But I'm just like, I got so sick and tired of people being excited for something I wasn't excited about. So like my hatred is sadly like if people are too excited for something, I'll just hate on it. Just like, I know it's a huge downer way to be, but I think there's two things about nerds you got to remember. Nerds love to hate stuff and they love to correct each other. So I think I'm representing nerds very well. Superman, on the other hand, I could go into a whole long story about my experience when I saw, was it like 2005 Superman with the Atom in it,
Brandon
right?
Routh.
Brandon Routh. Yeah,
something like that.
When I saw that movie, And I walked out of it, and like when you're a kid, you're supposed to walk out of that movie and you're supposed to be like, I want to be Spider-Man. I want to be Superman.
Right.
I walked out of that movie and I was like, that was the dumbest, you can put a bleep in. I'm not going to swear, but like that was the dumbest freaking movie I had ever seen in my entire life. And that just, my hatred of Superman comes back to my favoritism of other characters, which we'll get to later in the show. But to me, he didn't represent me, even though he was supposed to be a farm boy, even supposed to be whatever. He didn't represent me. He was like this all powerful alien who never had like a hard day's work in his life, as I would think. So I never cared for him. I just never found him interesting.
A fake cowboy, if you will.
All right, Simeon. I just never found him interesting. Whenever I would read stories, people would be like, okay, you don't like Superman. Read All-Star Superman or read this story. And then I would read those stories and I'd be like, man, this Lex Luthor guy be spitting facts. And I ended up being a big Lex Luthor fan because of reading Superman stories.
Yeah.
Mary Marvel is much simpler and more HeroClix related. I lost to that World's Finest Mary Marvel countless times. I mean, I could not tell you. I would get her to her last click. She'd full regen, go all the way back up. And I'd be like, I don't want to play this game anymore. Mary Marvel, that rare from World's Finest, was the closest I'd ever come to quitting HeroClix because I hated playing against her so much. I lost 3 or 4 big tournaments to that team. And that's because, inexperience, whatever. She wasn't that great of a figure, but she cleaned my clock every single time I played against that Mary Marvel. So when I saw they were making another one of her, I was like, I'm going to destroy him. And I didn't feel too bad destroying these because they're like commons and uncommons anyways.
Well, it's funny. It's funny that you talk about Superman being like not very relatable and not very interesting because I think he gets that kind of criticism a lot.
Yeah.
When especially like Batman fans, like if you like Batman over Superman, the reasons why is because Batman's usually more of an interesting kind of a character. Superman, yeah, he's like the unbeatable, like all powerful kind of godlike like hero. Yeah. But I mean, Simeon, what are your thoughts on Superman? Like do you agree with Kalder or?
I'm not nearly as vitriolic as Kalder, but I do agree that he's inherently just not like a super interesting character when you take all the stakes out of life, I guess. I mean, in the comic book medium, like Superman's life, when you take all the stakes out, he's invulnerable. He's like, I mean, I went into a long rant years ago about the death of Superman storyline and how that storyline kind of ruined death in comics just forever. Okay, at least in the major 2, DC and Marvel. And in my opinion, like it kind of ruined Superman for me even a little bit more because with Doomsday, like they introduced a guy who could not only go toe to toe with Superman, but he could be like bring him down to mortal level. And after that, like, yeah, there's people like Darkseid and there's, but he'll always come back. He'll always be there. He never like just has like a thing where he might actually be stopped someday kind of thing, unless it's like an alternate universe or whatever. And so inherently, I just find him really boring because of that. It's like knowing the end of a movie before you even start watching it. It's like, I mean, clearly in comics, it's usually the good guy wins, but it's, at what cost is like the interesting part because you already know they're going to win or eventually they're going to win or they'll lose, but, something like that. With Superman, it's almost never at any cost. It's like, I had to hold back to not destroy the earth. It's like, so you didn't even have to try is what you're saying. That sucks for like everyone else on the Justice League. But no, I don't hate Superman. I don't read those comics because all the reasons I just said. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I Death of Superman. You make a really good point with that. I mean, it makes me think of because yeah, he died, and then obviously he came back, and everybody knew he was going to come back because like if he was dead, then they would have no Superman, and they couldn't sell Superman comics. But like like it reminds me of like Game of Thrones a little bit, kind of like the opposite, because one thing that made that show interesting, in the beginning at least, was that I don't know if you guys have seen it or have you seen Game of Thrones or right?
I haven't.
No,
Simeon
yeah.
might have.
Oh,
I watched the first season. I watched the entirety of the first season, and then the rest of it I caught bits and pieces.
Well,
But I know enough of the story.
I
Yeah.
won't spoil it though. But I'm basically one thing that makes that show interesting is that when they kill off characters, they don't come back.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're not minor characters. Yeah, like
yeah, and they're not
you've
like
got
minor
people
yeah.
that mattered. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean that's really interesting about Superman. I mean, another thing you guys mentioned about your podcast was that you want to veer away from meta type talk, and that you want to get more casual with your conversations on your podcast. But I mean, do you find that yourselves as players are like more meta geared players, or do you find that you also play casually? Like, what's the balance there?
I think Simeon and he'll answer, but I think we play both really, really well. So when I build teams, when I first started playing, everybody wants to win because, I mean, no one wants to lose every game, right? But when I first started building teams, I was just, how many Captain Americas can I put on a team? Like, that was it, period. I did not care to play some thematic Avengers team from issue, who cares, or anything like that. I was just like, I want to play as many Steve Rogers on a team as possible. Like, that's it. As I, got into the game more and started showing up to like state tournaments, whatever, right? The first state tournament I ever played in, I played Lex Luthor ID battery. I didn't even know that was like a meta thing to do. I just liked Lex Luthor. I saw the potential. I played it. I lost everything but 2 games that day, and further and further, I've won a WKO. I've won a South Dakota States. I can play meta when like push comes to shove, but to me, that's only an avenue to play with my friends. My friends, Lucas Van Hollen, Kevin Nelson, Simeon, Devin, Isaac, thank you. Like all these guys, right? They're members of Phoenix Ness. They play 300 Modern. It's what they like to do. I want to play with them because they're good buddies of mine. We always have a good time playing. So when we get to go to road trips, to nationals, to origins, to worlds, whatever, that's the only reason I play 300 Modern. If we didn't play, if we were going on a road trip and it was 400 silver and you can't play any whatever, I'd be like, all right, let's go. That's all. 300 Modern is just an avenue to hang out with buddies to me. And that's what HeroClix to me is what it's always been about. So I prefer casual because I want to play inherently bad teams with characters I enjoy. And I'll know they're bad, but I want everybody else to also kind of play a bad team too, which is why I enjoy casual. But yeah, that's it for me. I never veer off from competitive. When push comes to shove, I'll play a team that has no characters I like. I enjoyed that I won my states win with like Earth X Captain America because that's my favorite, one of my favorite alternate universe Marvel storylines ever. But at the same time, I won a WKO last year with like Jason Wingard. And I couldn't have told you who Jason Wingard was before I played him, So when push comes to shove, I'll just play what's good and what other people kind of tell me to do type of thing, honestly. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, casual's always just been inherently like it's just been what I've built always. So I started off having zero clue about the game. I started off with HeroClix buying the miniatures to be like miniature statues. I wanted a bunch of little characters that I knew and loved to display for really cheap, and HeroClix is great for that. I mean, sculpt wise a little bit. I mean, it's give or take, but it's not bad for that. And then in having all these figures, I was like, well, I should learn how to play. And so my local shop at the time, I started talking to some of the guys there, and they were like, yeah, like we meet up on these days. And my original judge, he was extremely casual, but he built the exact same way that I still try to build today. And it was like really janky teams that shouldn't work, but sometimes they do. So, you'd have like this one character that triggers some effect, and then another character that you pulled from like way too far back to actually be worth playing in any casual sense, or competitive sense especially. But you just have like this like chain reaction that was kind of interesting. And Happy Little HeroClix was probably my biggest influence in team building because of all of the crazy little minute, like this character triggers this, and then how do we make this better? We do this and this. And it was never like so oppressively built that I would feel bad about playing it. It was always like a really interesting, really fun build, and it could be beaten. It just had some like real solid synergy going for it. And that's what I love about casual. And the reason why I like casual more is because you can take that same exact team, that same exact mindset, and if you distill it into a competitive sense, you just don't get the same effect. Like you're gonna lose a lot of like the fun pieces in doing that. Like Purple Man, one of my favorite builds from Happy Little HeroClix ever was the Purple Man from ADW. Bumped him up to like a 12 attack, and then he gets a +3 when he uses mind control or something. I can't remember exactly, but he had like a 15 with mind control, and then he had the mastermind tokens that he gave to people that he hit. And to me, that's an amazing build, but it just never works in it never works in competitive. And because of that, I just kind of dislike competitive. I'm like, I want these teams where I can do this one fun thing, and I don't want to get stomped. I don't want to like lose outright. It's not like I'm fine with losing, but I still want to do my one fun thing that I build for. And casual just allows that way more than competitive. Almost exclusively competitive kind of crushes those hopes and dreams. But that being said, like Kalder said, we're not any slouches. We've both got a couple state wins. I won a Nebraska State with Hawkeye, Star Fox, Tigra from AI, ADW Hawkeye. Really, it just came down to map rolls for that one, and it was a team that I thought was fun. It was not built to the best of its ability. There is better teams there. It came down to dice rolls and kind of just came down to how people played their teams. And I managed to capitalize on points in a couple of circumstances. And then I played WWE for the 2019 Popper Championship and won with that team. And again, WWE was just a team where I was like, how can I not build with these guys? This is so fun. Finally being able to do these finishers. Shawn Michaels being this ridiculous monster. I mean, Undertaker's a ridiculous monster. And Shawn Michaels, even not even more so, but for the points, he's pretty ridiculous. He can be a 13 for 5 all on his own with no other modifiers from anyone else. He can be a 13 for 5 by himself. And that was just so fun for me. And yeah, I guess, yeah, I don't even remember the original question, but that's my take on those two.
Just basically whether you're casual or more casual or competitive. But I mean, I think you guys both answered that really well. I mean, that's kind of the player that I am too. I like playing casual. I don't want to abandon that part of the game because I don't always. I like to. I buy a lot of. I buy a lot of stuff. I'm totally immersed into this game, and I want to get use of like all my figures. And if I'm just playing meta, I feel like I'm not using like 90% of the figures in my collection. So I want to get use out of them. And big shout out to Happy Little HeroClix, by the way, because Devin, I mean, he's got great teams. I know exactly what you're saying about them not being exactly like 100% competitive teams, but they're also very innovative teams. He comes up with like a lot of great combos and like synergies. So I think they're really cool. And also, Devin from Happy Little HeroClix, he's given me a lot of help in organizing Coffee and Clicks and getting me started with my podcast or YouTube channel. So big shout out to him. Another thing I wanted to ask you guys is about X-Men Rise and Fall. So what is your take on that? I mean, okay, from either, and it could be either way, from a meta standpoint or a competitive or a casual standpoint. Like, as just generally, is it a fun set? What do you think about it? And I see Kalder smiling, so
I'll
let Kalder go first on this one.
Dude, I also same thing what I said about the Fantastic Four. I became a mutant hater because of HeroClix, honestly. Too many mutant sets, too many people complaining about when we had a drought of X-Men. I used to love those movies as a kid. I would wait. When I was a kid, I was like, man, I can't wait till I turn 13. That's when my mutant power kicks in, because that's how it worked in the movies. Like, genuinely, I was a huge X-Men fan. But Heroclix and Heroclix players have made me hate the X-Men so much. If I gotta play against another call-in super rare Wolverine, he's gonna charge Flurry here. Like, if I had to do that again, I'd hate it. But so like X-Men Rise and Fall, to me, it's if anything, it's just boring. The new mechanic all works on a 5. It all, and I get, X-Force, whatever, X-Men, all works on a 5. It's all opposing attack rules only. Some of them are awesome. Some of them are save it for impervious or regen. Some are like generate a heavy object. And you're like, why? Why would I want to do that though? Who cares? So like some of the mechanics are really boring that they're using in this set. I think in Wonder Woman, they did benched powers really well. And in Rise and Fall, it shows the bench powers really hurt in Rise and Fall, I think, more than Wonder Woman with the shape change, super strength, etc. Right? To me, it's boring. Not being an X-Men fan and not seeing any crazy cool gameplay stuff, it's just really boring. So I can gladly skip this set pretty much.
Simeon, what about you?
So I think they did a great job trying to recreate Wolverine and the X-Men from, I believe, 2013. So they had 8 years to prepare and make almost the exact same set list as Wolverine and the X-Men, and they came very close. So kudos to them for trying to recreate one of the best sets ever made, and somehow still falling short. But they tried. So there's that. That's my initial take is between the Shi'ar and the X-Men. Of course, Wolverine is like 001, so that's the same. But just so many characters that we haven't seen since Wolverine and the X-Men make their reappearance in this set to the extent where it's like, so you could almost call it uncanny that this X-Men set is so similar. But no, when they first issued team up cards, I guess they technically had team up cards in Regenesis, but like the first actual big rollout for team up cards was Justice League Unlimited. There was a ton of them, and they were boring. Like, I get like some of them were kind of cool, some of them were interesting, some of them worked better than others, but inherently they were just all boring. They all did the exact, like if it was a team up with Superman, it did this. If it was a team up with the Flash, it did this. And like you had 120 of those reused instances. And so I get when they roll out a new mechanic or a new kind of whatever added onto a set, I think that they kind of make it boring on purpose because they want to like test the waters with this new mechanic, or they just want to roll it out so people understand it in a simplified kind of manner, which is also why they did in Regenesis. It was a very simplified yellow base. If all your characters are yellow based, you can use this team up ability, or not team up, alternate card
Keyword,
and
right?
yeah, and if all of them are blue, you can use the other one. So I think they like to roll these things out really simplified, and that's why Rally just sucks so bad in this set. They're all 5s, they're all red 5s, and so the most interesting part of Rally to me is that it's based off of like your opponent's die rolls and your die rolls. So when it's based off of yours, which technically 2 of the Rally dies, green and blue, can be kind of forced or coerced on your end. You can kind of prob it. You can manipulate the dice to get the Rally dice that you want. The opponent one is more of like they rolled this, maybe, you can kind of control theirs, but not really, not to the same extent. And there's so many that the very first ones that we saw Wolverine gets to replace his regen roll with his Rally die for a 5. That's great. Colossus gets to reuse or take his Rally die and use it for his impervious roll. Good. Sabretooth blades. And then there's stuff like Havoc gets to replace an attack die with a 5. It was like, all right. And then it was like Polaris can remove her Rally die to knock someone back 5. It was like, it just got progressively like the more we saw, the more forced the mechanic seemed to be. Like they just like really shoehorned it into this set for things that some of them like they make sense for the set, but it could have just been like a token. Like Polaris's ability to do it, it's like if your opponent rolled a 5 and you give it to Polaris, she can knock somebody back 5. It's like, that's interesting, but it's hardly worth like wrapping a whole set around that mechanic alone. And when we're just coming off of Wonder Woman, where we had 6 great generics, we had chases that were really interesting, we had equipments, we had constructs coming back, we had all this stuff in Wonder Woman set, and then we get X-Men Rise and Fall, we get no equipment, we get bystanders for whatever that's worth, but the bystander and token set is 1 set behind, so there's also that. There's just a lot of stuff that I really don't care for about this set. It's not the worst set in the world. I'm not going to pretend like I'm not going to buy any of it, because I will buy some of this set for sure. But man, like Rally, I just can't wait until the next version of Rally when we actually get the full scope of what it is, rather than like this one specific instance. But yeah, I assume it's because they want people to understand it before they roll it out fully, but I have no idea.
I actually thought the Polaris was kind of an interesting one, because I think she knocks back 5 when you roll the 5. She can knock back 5, but it's in any direction. I think it's in a direction. Direction of your choice, which could be good. But I mean, you're right. I mean, like, how often does your opponent roll a 5? Like, I don't know how often that actually happens.
How often do you want it to happen? Yeah, because you're not going to prob your opponent into a 5. And it's not that any of these rally traits make characters bad, because actually, like, you know, all of the rally traits, for the most part, there's a few people that have no special powers and only rally traits, which is kind of bad. But
yeah,
the rally traits as a whole are just good. It's just good add-on for a character. You know, it's like, oh, Havoc, all he can do is add a 5 to his die roll, like replace a die in his, like, well, that's always good to do. So it's not that I think that any of the rally traits are bad. I just think that they went about it in a real boring way. I would have liked to have seen 1s and 2s. I mean, even like a 3 and 4 kind of seem weird, but that's half of the die, not half. I can't do math, but the 3 and 4 do show up on dice.
Yes,
or like a 6. You're even correct. Like a 6 would be great. Long shot can replace a die in his attack roll with a 5, and then he crit hits on a 5/5 as well as a 6/6. So his is kind of interesting, but then again, I go back to, how is he better than the Wolverine and the X-Men long shot? Because in my opinion, he just kind of isn't. But that's my favorite set, so I'm biased.
Yeah, I mean, and I was thinking about the rally mechanic. Like, okay, so I mean, it's obviously not going to be competitive, I don't think. Like, this is not a competitive mechanic, but is it at least fun if you're playing in the house, like casual, like living room Heroclix? Like, is the rally mechanic, is it something that's a fun mechanic? Like ooh, I rolled a 5, you rolled a 5, cool. Like that makes it more fun. Like,
keep track of that, yeah. Make sure you put a die on that character's card. Yeah, I think it's fine for casual. It's just, it's one more thing, right?
I don't know if it's fun or not, honestly. WizKids hasn't made an article telling me that it's going to be fun, so I don't know if it is going to be fun. I have no
it's
clue.
True.
Yeah,
I rely on them to tell us what is fun.
Are there any figures that look like good in this set? I mean, if you want to take a look, I can screen share the Clicks Nexus, so we could take a look at some of the figures. Are there any that do stand out to you that to be like something that's interesting to you?
So right off the bat, the thing that stands out a lot to me is, through the commons and uncommons, how many extremely cheap pieces, like sub 50 point pieces we have. So sealed is going to be weird for this, because
it's going to kind of suck.
The figures that you're going to have to fill your team out with you're going to be looking at like 35 point Havoc and 40 point Impulse, and that's 75 points, and that's, 2 of your figs from a booster.
Was it as bad as Future Foundation? Because Future Foundation was really low.
No,
it's true. That is much
similar.
Worse. But I didn't have to play sealed of Future Foundation.
Like,
I'm going to the Clicks Cup, and I have to play sealed of this set. So this is why I'm worried about it.
This is definitely a growing trend, I think.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But what were you saying? Go ahead, Simeon.
Oh, I was just gonna say, the only thing for note of me that I have for note in the commons is they've actually got some really solid generics. So it's going to be a ton of fun to have an absolute horde of Sentinels on the map. Yeah, the Hellfire Club Guard, I think pretty easily. Well, I shouldn't say easily, but possibly the most expensive generic we've seen in a while, because not only do they have a really awesome trait with one of the super rares, but they've got a keyword that is probably going to see some resurgence.
Yeah,
that
soldier's a good
soldier.
Yeah.
No, but Hellfire Club, I think, is after this set is going to see a pretty decent bump. Whether it's competitive or not, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, what do we got in the uncommons? Do you like that Brood, or I wasn't sure about that one?
I actually hate that dial.
So bad.
Me too.
Especially not especially with the Brood Queen, because she makes it a little bit better. She can kind of place them, but no move and attack top dial. And it's Brood aren't stealthy, are they? Maybe they're hiding in a ship like xenomorphs, and then they pop out at you. But in HeroClix, that's not a real thing. Stealth isn't a real thing in HeroClix. You can still physically see where the character is, and even more so now that you can outwit it. So yeah, I just kind of don't like Brood.
Yeah, I really don't. Yeah. And Kalder, is anything that's pop out to you about this set? Maybe a figure? I mean,
Yeah,
everybody's going nuts about Blackheart and Gladiator Prime.
Yeah, I mean, especially looking at the normal Gladiator super rare, you're like, man, I hope the other one ain't this funky. He's not necessarily bad, but he's just funky with the way his powers are set up and everything, you know. I think he's fun. I'll probably play this Gladiator. I like Gladiator. Despite hating Superman, I actually like Gladiator. I think he's kind of a funny guy. So I like the super rare and the prime. He's cool. I like both Deadpools in this. I guess I like all three Deadpools, honestly, because they all do something really fun. If I pull Cake Deadpool, it's going to be hard not to sell him. I think both this guy and the Ultra Chase is I love it so much. The stop with Immune is super cool. I think Dewpool is also really fun. You know, I definitely dig
all the stop clicks on Dewpool.
All the stop clicks, yeah. I definitely think these are sadly the funnest things to me in the set are in the super rares and chases. You know, which it's kind of the way a lot of sets are. But I find both these dials very fun. Super fun. Cake Deadpool, Dewpool, super fun dials. Makes me excited. I hope we get more Warp World chases. That's one thing I like. Different versions of characters, two people, amalgam together. Love it. Love the chases. You know, I don't know who half of them are, but I love them.
Oh, these guys here? Yeah.
I think it's super cool.
Yeah, Weapon Hex
she's
probably
disgusting. Weapon X is so gross.
Without being able to get around stop clicks.
Yeah,
probably one of my highest likely candidates for a competitive piece, just because destroys and sealed. There's no invincible in this set, so the Mystics with 2 stop clicks and then also can heal off of stop clicks. So she's got the same thing as the Regenesis Wolverine, where at the end of your turn, you heal Weapon Hex 1 click. So if your opponent can't double tap Weapon Hex for whatever reason, can't hit to a stop click and then off of it, you immediately heal off of it at the end of your next turn, which I just find incredibly gross. And then on top of that, really solid defense values and powers. So I don't know. The Mystics isn't as scary in competitive because of we've gotten equipable Invincible, so the Stones of Merlin kind of help out with that. But also just a lot of teams have had prominent main attackers with Invincible. What is it? The Prime War Machine, Punisher War Machine being a notable case. Could probably double tap Weapon Hex pretty easily. But yeah, a few characters that I really like from the set, from a purely casual aspect. So Kalder said Gladiator, but the rare Kid Gladiator, actually really fun. Not nearly as good as the other Gladiator, of course, but for 75 points. So he's got the same confidence tokens, but he gets to increase his stats by 1 for each one he has, and then he removes them when he gets hit. But assuming that you can bob and weave and just, kind of get lucky with him.
Duck, dodge, dive, dip, and dodge.
Yeah, I mean, rocking a 14 Psychic Blast for 6, like game over at that point, right? 9 range, like assuming like you've already hit him, assuming he gets those stats, you've already hit your opponent 3 times with him. But yeah, that's just like a really fun piece. Probably not something that's competitive, but at the same time, you could pull that kind of thing off in casual at least once. There's, let's see, Tempo. Tempo is really fun because of the new rules alone. So Tempo does a thing similar to Sam Cap, where it's +3 speed or -3 speed, but I think it'll only ever be used for +3, honestly. And so, yeah, without taking the minus anything to carrying ability now, you've got a situation where every taxi, you add a 35-point piece with prob, and not just prob, but also adjacent opposing characters can't use super senses. So that's not nothing. You can drop her somewhere and negate super senses. But you've now got a piece that can increase your taxi's reach by 3 just for simply existing on the board. That's pretty sweet. You could, I don't know, like Guy Gardner, some Jessica Cruz, some sort of lantern situation, maybe the squirrel chip, or I don't know. You could figure out which taxi you want to use. You get a +3 speed, ramp up there, drop your constructs, have some. What's that terrible lantern's name? Man, I already said it. Guy Gardner. Yeah.
Oh, you scumbag! I knew that's what you were going for too.
No, but she's really fun. Probably, in my opinion, kind of boring for a casual piece. But the first piece I ever pulled was Max Mercury, and Max Mercury had a perplex, but only to increase speed values by +3. So whenever I see that speed +3, it always just like brings me back to the very first piece I ever got. And I mean, it's not a great piece. It's actually pretty bad. And then another decent piece, but probably not good enough for competitive, is that rare Dakin.
Dakin. I know you're going to say it.
Yeah. I mean, I have to.
I know you do.
One of my favorite characters of all time in comics, Dakin, Wolverine's son. So he's one of the few reasons why the stop clicks in this set might not win in sealed. I don't think anyone's building with him competitively, probably casually, definitely in sealed. If like somebody pulls him, he's just a really solid attacker for 70 points. But he gets, if he hits somebody, they get a poison token, and then they can't use stop for the rest of the game, even if he is KO'd and the ability's lost. So that makes weapon hex way easier to deal with without hurt. You can just blast right through those stop clicks. You're still taking mystics, but it's way better to like knock right through those stop clicks, and like it just negates her ability to heal off of them. And then also Dupool also has a bunch of stop clicks. There's several characters in this set that have stop clicks.
Oh yeah.
One thing I like about Weapon Hex too, I just want to look at that again, is that she's got a great attack power. Hexagon, Blaze Claw's Fangs, when Weapon Hex uses it.
Oh yeah.
After resolution, she could just hit somebody with blades and then place them like with the rest of your team, so you could just finish them off. Like,
it doesn't say anything about range or line of fire or anything like that. I mean, range, of course not, but no line of fire necessary. So yeah, you could like place them on other sides of walls, up elevation, like whatever. It's kind of, I don't know. That's a really fun power for sure. That Prime Mimic is also, I don't know. So it seems too good for casual, because I think it's
60
just
or
really
150?
exploitable. Probably. I mean, for casual either. Competitively, it's almost always like the lower dial, isn't it? Like I don't.
Yeah, yeah.
But I really like his 150 dial because with close combat expert being what it is, he's a 13 for 5 with charge, flurry, plasticity, and that's just his own powers. And then you add in he can use the displayed standard attack and damage powers of all of adjacent characters. So somebody on your team could have sidestep. He could carry them because he doesn't get a minus to his flight or to his speed. Flight giving carry ability and no negative to speed value anymore. He could sidestep, carry, like copy that. He could just do all kinds of stuff. And then once he gets next to an opposing character, he's copying their powers as well. Yeah, I feel like Mimic is, I don't know. I don't think he's a broken prime, but I think he's got a lot of potential just because of the sheer number of powers he could duplicate. I'd put him on like a team with a bunch of WWE figures so he can copy some of those alternate powers as well as the main PAC powers.
That's a good, yeah. I'm trying to think of who else I like from this set. I mean, everybody's, the uncommon Magneto and Professor X, everybody's
right.
I mean, objectively, the two best characters in the entire set, you know?
Yeah.
Period.
I at this point, I don't even know if there's like a figure. I mean, clearly, like the chases might be worth more, but as far as like getting your money out of the set, those two are really where it's at. And they're uncommons, which is the best part.
And I also love the fact that they're uncommons, and I love the fact that they are Professor X and Magneto instead of some other characters. Like, you just want, like, I think, I mean, I'm more actually, we get a lot of good Magnetos, but I feel like we don't get as many good Professor X's, you know?
Is it not weird that he has no mind control though?
Yeah,
like,
it's a little weird.
He's got his legs. He can't use his powers. His legs work. What do you mean?
It's not James McAvoy or
that's how it works. Yes, it is.
And
yes,
I love that they put Illuminati on here too, because
that's good. Yeah. But like that's the big thing, right? When you play competitively, you want to play characters you like, and then this ability makes sense for these guys, you know. So like that's important. Same thing with Sue. It made sense for her. Characters like Vulture, I don't have fun playing or playing against. You know, if that was Wolverine or somebody else, you know, then it makes sense. I'd never read the storyline where Vulture can kill an entire town in 3 turns or whatever.
Right.
But like I've read a million stories where Wolverine murders hundreds of people in one facility or X-23 or something.
Yeah, he like
Berserker
burns
rage,
through ninjas. You know? Yeah, so constantly.
Like, playing against Vulture felt so lame because you're like, dude, that old guy.
It's not even the main Vulture.
It's some like
Adrian Toomes. No, it's Blackie Drago is the name of the weird, Prime.
You know, so it's not even
the normal one's Adrian Toomes.
Yeah. So I definitely think characters that you want to do certain things are comic accurate, and that's what makes them so great. That's what makes competitive even more fun. We can play.
I mean, that's why I love this. I'm super excited for this Ultra Chase, just because he poisons people with slices of cake.
Yes, it's so good. It's so fun.
I think that's hysterical. What do you guys think of the legacy cards, by the way? Because I know a lot of people are going nuts over these legacy cards. In my opinion, the ones that we've had so far in the last 2 sets, I mean, they're not that like I haven't been super impressed by the legacy card value, but I mean these ones look like they have some promise.
Yeah.
What do you think?
So my opinion with legacy cards goes kind of like this. If it was an uncarded figure and you like they're giving it traits, you know, it comes from like an older set where like pre-card era, they're giving it traits, they're giving it stuff that brings it up to date as we know now. The thing that really undersold it to me for the the Future Foundation, Fantastic Four Future Foundation set was the lack of stat changes, and because they said they like essentially said they're going to reserve the right to change stats. So it's possible that they'll change stats. Probably not going to change powers, but might add like traits and other abilities like that. And they might even change point values, which was great for Morgan Le Fay. And then the entirety of the Fantastic Four was all but unusable. Mr. Fantastic definitely not getting played. Sue Storm probably never getting played. The Thing probably never getting played. And it's
yeah,
just,
but what about these legacy cards, Simeon? What about these ones?
Well,
the ones we're
that's
talking
my
about
idea
right
for
now.
legacy cards in general.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
So, in my opinion, Destiny, just for the sheer fact that she's so cheap,
You can't.
might make a team.
It's the cheapest prob in the game. 20 points.
It's the cheapest prob in the game, and she gets to give characters defend. So her defense value is always whatever she's next to, which is great. If you've got an extra 20 points and you're already building something from one of those keywords, probably a solid pickup. Is she going to be making like the top meta teams? I don't know. But here's the thing that I really hate about legacy cards in general is they add absolutely zero to casual gameplay, because Destiny here actually gets changed a little bit. So if you were playing Destiny casually for the last 18 years, close to that, if you're playing her casually for that long, this card actually changes her. Now, if you're playing that Apocalypse or Magneto or the Fantastic Four, like I just mentioned, their legacy cards didn't really change them enough that, like, where it was going to be a deciding factor in whether that made your casual game. And they didn't make them good enough to be competitive. So at the end of the day, they're just kind of there. Like they were a card that you pulled. I don't know.
I was actually wondering about like Sentinel. They changed Sentinel, but Sentinel's still modern legal.
Yeah.
So can you choose to play Sentinel without the legacy card and just play the old Sentinel? Or,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you can. So like it's basically like an extra figure that they just created.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
To me, it's ridiculous. I don't think they should ever make a legacy card for a modern figure. I understood the Batman the Animated Series Wonder Woman because it was going to rotate, and it was the first ever animated series Wonder Woman they made. That's fine. This is stupid. You already made a Sentinel in the same set that you could have tried to design however you want to do with this legacy card. I just think making modern legacy cards, especially when X-Men have a rich history of awesome 2x2 base figures that you could have made. Holocaust,
Yeah.
you could have made the Frost Giants if you wanted to. Those aren't whatever, but still they're in the GSX set. You could have made Apocalypse. That's an awesome sculpt where he's got Cyclops, like you could have made Nemesis, whatever, right? There's tons of awesome X-Men colossal figures that you could have made. And you're like, you know what? That Sentinel needs a legacy card.
Well,
and
I do understand it a little bit because like Sentinel's probably the major generic villain of the X-Men. And so like I understand them wanting to kind of keep him alive especially for this set, and like when the old one does rotate out, like at least they'll have like a Sentinel that people can play. I don't know.
Well, that would be different if there wasn't a Sentinel in this set.
Yeah.
I'm just glad they didn't choose Tri-Sentinel for the legacy card. But no, like Kalder said, we've got, the Cap Sentinel. There's a bunch of 2x2 Sentinels, but then there's also what is it? Giant size X-Men that had Nimrod and had the not stealth Sentinels, but they had like Sentinel Mark 1s, or I don't know. There's a bunch of different Sentinels, even like single based ones. And I feel like it goes completely against the entire idea of a legacy card to pick a modern figure. Whether this, like, maybe they designed it before they changed what they were going to rotate, and so this was supposed to be on the docket. But even then, this and the Cyclops from Xavier School, just super, way too recent. My legacy card stuff, I want pre-card, I want you to look at pre-carded stuff and have to go through all of those decisions before you get to like carded stuff. And then I want you to go from the oldest carded stuff to the newest stuff. And I just feel like they're working backwards at this point. They're like, what's a Sentinel that we've made? Oh, yes. The most recent Sentinel that we've made.
I think if they would have,
it does bother me. It does bother me that it's a generic too. Like that now, like how expensive are these legacy cards going to go?
Yeah,
and they were
oofta.
These Sentinels were going for $30 almost prior to the legacy card. And so even like now after the legacy card, it's like anybody that was casual and wanted to build a huge team of these, and they were like, oh yeah, these are going to rotate in a year. I can't wait to get my hands on these. Man, like they're going to drop in price so quick. And then they're like, hey, legacy card. These will be around for at least another 2 years. Like, I don't know. Man, that's just rough.
I'm actually excited for the Cyclops one, though. I mean, I think he's a cool sculpt. And also, I think that, like, he's, like, a really good representation of Cyclops. So, like...
Yeah, and the fact that I could probably punch him and knock him out, I agree that it's a good representation of Cyclops.
I mean, theoretically, yeah, he is just a man with punch dimension vision.
Right. It's not lasers. It's kinetic energy, knocking back vision. It's like getting hit with the truck. I'm like, okay.
No, that's probably one of the best sculpts that we've ever had for a Cyclops.
It is cool.
Same with that Wolverine. A lot of those XXS super rares were just really solid sculpts.
Yeah, like now that they did Cyclops, I wouldn't mind if they legacied that Wolverine. But I don't.
Oh, I would.
I don't want it.
I never want to see that thing on a table again. Yeah. When people put it on a team and like casual, I'm like, are you though? Like, are you really doing like? I thought we were having fun. I thought we were friends. You gonna do this to me? You're gonna put that Wolverine, and this is like as a Wolverine fan. I love that Wolverine. I love playing it. I had way too much experience playing against it and with it.
Yeah.
No, I understand that. I mean, it was definitely one of the best figures around for its like point value at the time. I remember seeing a video.
Yeah, it was 5 points, right?
Yeah, 5 points. You can't be 5 points. Wait, 5 points. I get to heal everybody on my team 1 click, and I get to deal potentially like 12 damage in 1 turn. I can't beat that for 5 points.
I think I saw a video from like Lane Miller or something, and he was going over like the power of that Wolverine figure, and he counted all the powers. I think it had like something like 20 something powers. Just like I don't know, if you actually look at that Wolverine and count all the powers on the Wolverine. It's like insane. There's just everything in one package there. I don't know. But I mean, it is.
So if they did legacy card that Wolverine, the only thing that I would be okay with is if they got rid of his 50-point dial, or if they changed it so his headmaster trait and his like other trait, whatever, like all the like, because there's that huge list of things that he can do at 50 and 150. If they changed it so he could only do that at 150, then I'd be fine with it.
Honestly, if you made him like 125 points top dial, because 150 is too much. You gotta like, if you look at that Cyclops and that Wolverine, you're like, these guys aren't worth 150. Same thing in the way of like AVS Captain America isn't worth 150 anymore. Like this Wolverine, this is good 50-point dial. It's fine. The 150 points, like, no.
Well, I mean, there's a reason why the 150 never got played.
Well, yeah, exactly, right. So that's the only legacy card change I would want to see is like cutting that dial.
Yeah,
like
half of his utility
dial price.
Half of his utility wasn't in his stats and his like attacking ability. It was in the leadership, perplex, the free ID card, free make close attack, like all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And you got all of that at 50 points. Or the same exact thing at 150, and like you got a deeper dial at 150. I think 2 more stop clicks and like a little bit of a stat bump, but really
not great, not much.
No, nothing that like made it worth. And so at 50, like it was just a dichotomy between like, here's what the best Wolverine at 150 points could be, and they're like, and here's his younger brother. Just as good, but a third the price. It's like, why would you ever pay.
I mean, in any universe, you'd rather play 3 50-point
Yeah.
Wolverines than one 150-point Wolverine. So,
yeah, every single time.
yep.
Yeah, I mean, and that 150-point Wolverine, I mean, like, I think it was just so much better than the 150-point Cyclops counterpart.
Oh, yeah.
Just
Oh,
because,
I don't-
mean, like,
did
they
the
gave him
Cyclops have
3
stop clicks?
No, the Cyclops didn't have any stop clicks.
Yeah.
He had like willpower and he had mastermind or
I don't even
something
know if he I don't even know if he
intermittently.
had reducers.
Nope.
He was like, here, shoot this random mutant kid instead. Bam. All right, thank you.
And WizKids was like, 2 super rares. The exact same. Both 150. Good. And it's like, clearly these, and they were like, no. Range is such a good advantage. This Cyclops will never get hit by Wolverine. That's what I love about their articles is like just how detached they are from HeroClix. Sometimes they're like, range is so powerful. If you can outrange somebody, I'm like, you do realize that maps exist. It's not just like 2 characters on a blank canvas. There's
Let's not badmouth WizKids too bad on Anthony's show. He might still have a chance to get bricks in the mail.
That's
We
true.
burned our bridge long ago.
We are far gone from
we don't want to kill his
previews,
chances of getting previews or product.
but, yeah.
So we talked about Rise and Fall, and the legacy cards. I mean, as far as like meta is concerned, if you look at the meta now, I mean, rotation is coming up very soon. Like, what do you think are like the number 1 teams in the meta, like archetypes, and what do you think are like figures you're gonna miss from rotation?
Dude,
Yeah.
Wonder Woman is strong. Being able to go all the way across the map, in-cap your whole team twice, really, because then you bring Giganta over, quakes everybody, gives them a token. That's insane. Being able to, it's not retaliation, it's just blitzkrieg at that point. That's a crazy strong team. So Justice League.
Why can you do it twice with the lasso? Because I was looking at that and I was like, why are you able to use the lasso's free effect and then when you remove it from the game with the shifting focus?
Because it's a different character doing the free action.
Yeah. So in the comprehensive rules, I believe it tells you exactly what carries over when a character is replaced. And it's like if that character was carried, if they were given an action this turn or something along those lines. And there's one other thing that I can't exactly remember, but it's a very short list and free actions happens to not be on that list. So essentially, if you had shifting focus with 2 characters that had sidestep, you could sidestep 4 squares because you can do these frees back to back by activating. The only thing you can't do is shift out again, I believe, because it explicitly words if this hasn't been like activated this turn.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's for the same reason that if you had a character that had sidestep, you shifting focused them out, brought another character with sidestep, you could sidestep first, shift, and then sidestep again. Because I mean, and essentially, even though they're using the same free action, it's from a different character.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's the same reason why that Earth X Spider-Man Spider-Man that could move and place somebody next to him, but they couldn't be given an action. It's the same reason why that circumvented shifting focus or shifting focus circumvented that power, because that that power didn't transfer to the replaced character, so you could shifting focus and then do a power action essentially. But yeah, Wonder Woman's real solid. Secret Six, I thought Secret Six was going to be a much bigger deal. I still think you have to be prepared for it. I just haven't seen any teams being listed where it's an actual Secret Six theme team. I've seen a lot of Sky Tyrants because I mean they fit on Monster so well that it's people throwing like Doppelganger and whatever else Wendigos. But Sky Tyrant and Scarab are they're just monsters for the point value. Just like that Wolverine is a monster for 50 points. Like those two have so much they bring to the table for 50 points.
Do you think you have to play double Scarab or?
I think if you're going to play Scarab, it doesn't hurt to play double Scarab. I mean, I think it just makes sense at a certain point. Depends on what you're using it for. If you're only using it for like the object attack, maybe one's fine. If you're copying objects, like friendly objects, which I think is the better ability, I think that just gives your team a ton of utility. Being able to pay the price for one object or just come equipped with an object and then copy it with a 50-point character that's good for the points. It's just a ton of utility, and you're kind of you're not underutilizing it, I guess, but you might as well have two at that point. I mean, what's a better character that fits on the theme than just another Scarab?
Right. And then what other like archetypes are out there besides those two?
I mean, there's tons of good stuff. Like,
it's pretty
honestly,
open right now.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a wild west. I think those are two of the teams where if you don't think about what they can do, if you aren't prepared for a Sky Tyrant attack, for being, losing your objects right away, someone attacking you first turn, Scarab, Wonder Woman getting to you first turn. If you're not prepared for those two teams at the very least, like that's your bases, but everything else is still good. Brad Boyles, one with like X-Men and maggots and stuff, which is just like an Alpha Strike team, very good Alpha Strike team, Well, I don't think you won actually. Sorry, you went second back-to-back weekends though. And consistency is that's almost better, right? Really, like sure you didn't win, but you got very consistent. That's good. And in a game of random dice rolls, that's awesome. So like X-Men is good. Honestly, Black Widow and Captain Marvel are still just fine. They've got stop clicks and all this jazz. They're still tough to chew through. I didn't see a lot of Fantastic Four played when I played at Tulsa. So I don't know about Fantastic Four, honestly. I think Alpha Strike is still good. Like Micron and Atom being able to be all the way across the map and make two attacks is awesome, So I think it's a Wild West meta right now. And maybe a lot of people say that all the time. But I do think right now a ton of stuff can be good.
So, that makes me think because a lot of these teams have full map reach now. A lot of the teams do. Like you can get across the map Alpha Strike with, Secret Six. You can do it with Giganta. You could do it with like X-Men or Animals, or there's all sorts of ways you can get all the way across the map. Do you think that's good for the game or bad for the game or neither? I had a friend, who's just learning Heroclix, and he's only like less than a year playing. And I asked him, I'm like, so hey, you're getting better, but like, how do you like the game? Are you enjoying it? He said, man, I like the game, but it's like weird that, you can just win in like one or two turns, like. And also, how do you guard against that? Like, how do you guard against like a big Alpha Strike going all the way across the map?
So, to your first question, like, do I think it's good for the game? I'd prefer not to see it. I'd prefer to see Heroclix take a more strategic kind of thing where, and this is like Sealed does this really well because you can't build so aggressive. Like, you can build aggressively, but you can't build, I'm going to nuke your entire like starting line in your starting area kind of way. Not usually, at least. I think it's hard to avoid though with the amount of cheap TK and the amount of like high speed values and carrying characters. I mean, as long as they make characters that can free generate a bystander, there'll be Alpha Strike teams. As long as they make characters that have decent TK range for cheap enough, there'll be Alpha Strike teams. Like with probably less than 100 points, I could make any character get to an opposing starting area. Whether it's worth investing that many points in it, I don't know. But as far as how you guard against it, because like the biggest example, I think anyone that played in the last 2 years is probably still scarred a little bit of all the Vulture play, because for a hot minute it was hard to guard against. It was new, it was fresh, we didn't know what exactly was going on. And when you've got a 14 attack with like 6 damage coming at you, and it's got flurry, and it just wipes your whole team in a turn, you've got to make ideas or whatever. I've always been a big fan of like tanky giant defense kind of stuff. Not necessarily good reducers, but like really high defense, really tight positioning. stuff that makes characters with energy explosion just like lick their lips because they're like, oh man, if I could just hit this. But I really like the Fantastic Four because you've got that super rare thing with his 19 defend. You've got like things like Agent Venom, who gives everyone adjacent shape change. You've got Ghost Rider, who gives everyone adjacent energy shield. You've got all these great little ebb and flow pieces that can really build a super tanky, hard to hit kind of team. But where it falters is it moves across the map too slowly. There's no great taxi for the Fantastic Four, at least not really with the build that I do. So then you have to do like barrier on that team, and Sue Storm's great for barrier. It's not the most fun tactic. It actually, in my opinion, is the worst power in HeroClix because I just hate using it. I hate it when it gets played against me, and I hate using it. Occasionally it's fun to do like the barrier around one character when Unimind was hot for 2017. I really liked barriering the 4 squares around him so that he just couldn't move, because at that point he didn't have any Eternals with sidestep, or at least they weren't getting played, so it was pretty solid. But barrier's really the only option unless you can somehow force a map win, or like you also have a Alpha Strike team. But yeah, that's really, what is it? It's barrier, or it's just luck and high defenses.
Defenses, yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, and prob, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to have like solid defense powers. I mean, some rollouts, some probs. I love that Agent Venom because he gives everyone shape change, and shape change, in my opinion, is still a hard power to counter. You've got Battle Fury and stuff, but that's not on every team. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know you had that, speaking of your high defense strategy, I know you had that in that SEAL tournament, the Eagle Cast SEAL tournament. You had that super rare golden armor Wonder Woman. Like everybody had like a 20 defense.
Yeah, she has a 19 defend, and then Star Sapphire, when she succeeds with leadership, gives everyone a +1 defense. And then Star Sapphire herself had ESD, so she was at like a 21 no matter what the whole time. Yeah, that was a pretty solid team until the prime Donna Troy. Any roll of a 7, the first roll of a 7 every turn is a crit hit. So
yikes.
Yeah, Chip was just like, well, I don't need to roll a 10, I just need to roll a 7 and it's a crit hit, which
playing
also
in his own tournament, kind of a scumbag thing to do, but okay, sure.
It was sealed, it's fine. But yeah, every character in that set has super senses. And when you crit hit on a 7, it's like, oh, not only did I roll a 7, do more damage to you, also you don't get that 1 defense ability that's boosted in this set. So yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much how I build, even outside of sealed if I can.
Yeah, I mean, do you think barrier is the worst power in HeroClix, or?
It's not. No, it's not a bad.
It's one
power.
Of the best. It's one of the best.
I hate seeing it.
It's just annoying to play against because then you're not playing. I want to have superheroes punch each other. I don't want to be like wall. It's a lame power. I mean, it's strategically one of the best powers in the whole game, right? When I was playing an online tournament, if I didn't have somebody that like moved through blocking, I was playing against Molecule Man, some real scumbag guy. We were on Ancient Hold. He had Molecule Man. He barriered and he free smoke clouded. And I would have just lost the game if we weren't both forced to play Absorbing Man. This total scumbag would have just took the victory. It would have sucked.
Yeah, I don't know who enjoys barriering that.
I don't know who would do that. Yeah,
I will change my mind here though. Barrier is fun to use against Kalder.
You're a dick.
Anyone else I feel bad about, but against Kalder, man, if I could just play like 7 Molecule Mans and nothing else.
Yeah.
Perfect.
One of my least favorite powers is regeneration for some reason.
Yeah.
Do you guys like that power, or because I mean, I always find that when I'm in a game and I have a character like that Wolverine that we looked at, the common has regeneration with the rally die, but it's still a power action to use regeneration. So you're usually hurt when you're using it, and then you power action to regen. Sure, you might heal up a little bit, but then like you just get attacked the next turn anyway because you're tokened up.
And likely double tokened at that point.
Regen most times is a very futile effort to try to last that much longer in a HeroClix game. Thankfully, there is no pushing damage, so you can no longer push to regen. for those that know that HeroClix podcast that died. Yeah. Oh, okay. There we go. Then perfect.
I like regen as an idea because it shouldn't be a free action. That'd be too good. Certain characters can do it themselves, so it's better than support. I guess it's only like really good if you have like a TK to throw along with it. Like you can yank the person back out of harm's way or if you've got like a special one where you're like immune until next turn or something like that. But,
I think like that Beta Ray Bill chase from like.
Oh yeah.
I think he could move. He could like move for free or something like that, and then regen, right, or something like that.
Was it the Teen Titan? No, not Teen Titan chases. Superman and the Legion of Superheroes. All of the chases from that set had regen with phasing, and they could use regen for free after phasing. Yeah. And so it was like not only are you getting out of harm's way, going like 12 squares away, you're also healing back up, making it harder for your opponent. Stuff like that like makes regen way better because on the surface, like Kalder said, it's an effort and futility. You're just fighting a losing battle if you're wasting actions on regen most of the time.
Normally, I guess it's a good tactic if you kind of know that time's running out and you want to, and you're up on points or something. I don't know.
Sure.
But what are your thoughts on the buy it by the case figures? Also, let's get into that for a little bit.
Yeah, dude, that's another thing where it was like WizKids was like, hey, this exists, and the HeroClix community looked at it and they're like, I hate you, or they're like, I love you. It was just there's that instant divide. So I'm against things that completely separate the HeroClix community. That was hardcore. People were going for the throat. Some people were like, but think if you got a hot dog, it's like getting another hot dog for free. So that's totally fine.
Yes. Who would make such a good analogy and force it on people on HD Realms? And then they would just cast it aside like it was a garbage analogy.
They tore you apart, man. They hated you so much. HD Realms is a brutal place.
Try not to joke on HD Realms. It's a very serious place.
I was okay with it in this set. This set, to me, beautiful financial set buy-in wise. Honestly, I only wanted one chase. I only wanted one super rare. I bought 3 cases of this set because I could easily make my money back. Sell a chase, sell the super rare, sell a chase, sell the super rare, sell a bunch of the generics. It only sucks because I had to sort through it, right? And then at the end of the day, I didn't make all my money back really just from cases alone. I ended up being 50 short because I didn't sell a few other super rares. I didn't sell my Guy Gardner and whatever else, right? This buy it by the case stuff, I got 2 FedEx shipments coming. So that's 2 Fulcoms, baby. So I'm going to make $400. I will never spit in the face of free money personally. That's the, let's make a deal, businessman in me, shake hands. I love it because this set, you can complain as much as you want. You could be like, oh, I have to buy this. And yeah, it sucks. If you can't buy a case and you can't invest heavily into it, it sucks when you can't play the game. And that's true. But here's the thing. If you think that these are $300 figures, then you just didn't think about it for more than 2 seconds. If you're just like, oh, these figures are behind a $300 paywall. They're not. They're behind a little bit of patience because most of them, besides Fulcom, who's $200, who's still cheaper than your $300 paywall, most of them are going for under $100. All these single base figures are like 50 to 100 at like the most. I don't even know if I've seen any sell for 100. Honestly, I haven't paid too much attention, but they're not that expensive to get up. And here's the thing. we're not having conventions. They were like, here, these are figures that would normally be convention exclusives. You get to have them for already buying product that you want to buy. I wanted to buy Wonder Woman, you know, I wanted as many generics as possible. So you're saying, oh, I get this product for relatively cheap, right? I get the time of cutting off 20 UPCs was the worst part. Honestly, that sucked. That was the only really tough part. The 50-cent stamp and stuffing them into an envelope and then paying $5 for shipping is like nothing compared to the pain it was to agonizingly cut off those UPCs. So this is a long-winded rant to say I'm totally cool with it because it's not a bad thing to get more HeroClix in the hands of the people. And if they do this for Marvel to get us that Ghost Rider and that, you know, Hank Pym Punisher, and if they do it for WWE to get us that Sting, please, 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 please get us that Sting, you know, like I'm A-okay with it. I think it's totally fine. And for anybody who's been listening to this, they know that me and Simeon don't shy away from poo-pooing on WizKids or being, you know, kind of negative, which, you know, we're just honest with people, you know, it's how we feel. I thought this was totally fine. I was A-okay with it, honestly.
We didn't do a glowing review of Rise and Fall just a little while ago.
No, so exactly, right? We're hard on this company. You know, we're just not honest.
Like we're fanboys for WizKids, but when they do a good thing, so like when I first saw people complaining about the buy it by the case stuff, it was, you know, WizKids dropped the info like a week before at the actual release, or maybe it was a week before pre-release. It was somewhere.
It was pre-release. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was about 2 weeks, a little bit over 2 weeks before the actual release of the set. And people were like, oh, their sales are so bad that they're throwing this in at the last second, you know, this and that. And I was like, that doesn't make sense because honestly, if their pre-orders were probably already in. Most stores, brick and mortar stores, will either buy a set amount of pre-order stuff, or they'll pre-order a set amount of stuff, or they'll add on depending on what their player base wants. And so if their, you know, orders dipped because of like it just being a bad set, that would have made sense. But it doesn't really make sense because there's places like Cool Stuff Inc. and Troll and Toad and all those other online stores that pre-order just a bazillion cases. Like I don't even know how many they go through,
tons of products,
ridiculous amount. So I feel like WizKids probably sells about the same amount regardless of, well, most brick and mortar stores, like regardless of the few people that don't buy into certain sets kind of thing. But yeah, I saw a lot of people that were mad about it for whatever reason. I came down on it because I already had bought into the set. I came down on it as like WizKids is just giving you free stuff when you're already buying their product. You know, they're giving you this bonus because you invested in them. They are giving you this like free payback kind of thing. It also came out to be like a nice rebate. Like if you only bought a brick, you could sell the UPCs for $1 to $2 pretty easily. If you didn't want to buy a brick or a case, you could buy the UPCs for $1 to $2 pretty easily. And that's 20 to 40 bucks. And then you could ship that off if that's all you cared about. Like Kalder said, the set had a ton of value in it. I looked at it between the chases, the super rares, the generics, and the equipment. I was like, this set is just, it hits every single mark for value. You know, benched powers aside, because at the end of the day, benched powers really didn't affect those things. You know, doesn't affect equipment, doesn't affect generics. Generics already only get like 2 powers. Doesn't affect super rares because they worked around most of them in pretty decent ways. And it really didn't affect the chases. I mean, almost all of those chases are better than whatever the previous sets were, at least as like a theme. And then going forward, I honestly hope they don't have to do this going forward. I think it's a cool incentive. I guess, it depends on like what the real reason for them doing this was. Were they sitting on this product and just wanted to get rid of it? Or were they actually just giving it to people who were investing in their product? Because if that's the case, if they hold like nationals and they've got the con exclusives, and then they're like, oh, by the way, anyone who buys a case of this set, what what's the next one after Rise and Fall?
Empire.
Exiles?
Empire.
Empire.
Yeah. If they're like, here's Nationals, you can buy these figures that we haven't released, and then anyone who buys a case of Empire, you can get one of these as well. That helps out the local players that can't go to Nationals, which is awesome. That, doesn't affect the people that go to Nationals. They can still buy and resell. And that's the other thing. This was always a complaint. Like, convention exclusives have been a complaint since they existed, because it was always, oh, these people go to like Nationals or Worlds and then scalp us, people who can't go there. It was like, well, yeah, somebody has to buy the stuff and they have to pay to get there. Mm-hmm. But now that you had the convenience of doing it from home, there was also complaints. So I don't know if there's if the Venn diagram is like a perfect circle on that one, or if there's some crossover there. But yeah, I'm fine with it continuing as long as it doesn't detract from WizKids doing convention exclusives like in person again, which it couldn't. It wouldn't.
No way.
Yeah.
No way.
And Calder, I think the Fulcrum Abominus, I think that's going for 250. I don't think it's going for 200 unless it drops.
It's 200 plus, right? Yeah, it's going for a solid amount. So
yeah,
hey, mo money, mo problems. So cha-ching. That's what I'm all about.
But what do you think is out of those figures, are there any of them that you guys desire to own in your collections? Or
I will eventually. Yeah, for sure.
Like, what's because the most interesting one, you think?
That's actually hard, because Fulcrum is it's like easily it's the easiest to access as far as like how easy can I fit this on the team. Yeah, it's a retaliator for 25 points. We all know how those work.
Mm-hmm.
It sits on your back line, it adds to your theme, it's got prob, it's got a lot of stuff going for it. The one that I think is not necessarily underlooked, because there's only 4, so how could you really underlook any of them? But Plastic Man, the fact that he's unique, honestly, makes his value way less, which is good in the long run for anyone that wants one. In the long run, him being unique, the more that we get out there, the less likely his price will stay. It's going to probably drop to like 30, 40 at some point pretty soon, I would imagine. But Plastic Man is probably the easiest to build with. Outside of Fulcrum, because Fulcrum just throws on to any robot or Justice League theme team. But Plastic Man, you can throw on to a ton of teams, and he's just got so much utility. He's got a really solid dial for the points. He's got a 40-point line and a 20-point line. Both are decent lengths. And then he's also got these objects that are coming out. We only comes with one, but he's got these other objects that come out. And when he swaps into them, you essentially have a character that just can't be KO'd while he's that object. It's immovable and or indestructible and immobile. So
what is the strategy with using that object? Because I try to figure out what to do with that. Like do you just, it moves 1 square per turn, right? But it's also immobile. So
you can also swap it back into Plastic Man, who's no slouch in the attacking department. I think he's got like a 10 attack Quake. So disrupting opponents, we'll have a better idea of like what all you could do with it when the other objects come out, because there's fire hydrant, mailbox, and stop sign. No,
okay. Traffic cone.
Traffic cone. Yeah. But just point denial alone, being able to throw Plastic Man up, turn him into a mailbox, and then all of a sudden you have 40 points that isn't on the map. That's pretty solid. But the biggest thing, I think the easiest thing to do is if you have a way to get Plastic Man across the board and turn him into his object, you now have an object that Scarab can attack through, and it's immobile and indestructible, so your opponent can't do anything about it except hide from it. And that's the easiest one. I'm sure there's better options. I just can't think of them off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, for me, I like Lex Luthor. This version totally sucks. Like, he is straight garbage for 150 points, in my opinion. I think he's terrible. But I'll get him eventually. When I sell all the ones I get, I'll eventually pick up Lex when he's like 30 or something bucks. Like, he's cool. He's got a good sculpt, so I'll keep him. I'll add him to my other bald and beautiful Lex Luthors, throw them in the show.
Cool. You know, I that's the one that I got. I got the Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
But I also like that Grodd. I think he looks interesting.
I think it's cool. I think what he does is really
75
cool.
points.
But man,
Yeah.
75 points. It's steep for a very short dial. But I really like what he does.
What
It's
is it?
cool.
His
It can hit super hard. His perplex and is it turn off like all your
it's
powers.
like retro mutagen ray or
it's
whatever
cool,
the heck it's
man.
called.
That's like a TMNT thing, I think. But
yeah, it is for sure. But no, Grodd's ability to drop people to just like garbage.
It's pretty gnarly.
It's pretty fun.
I think he can wreck house and casual. The only bad thing is like it's a 50-50 shot, right?
Yeah.
And HeroClix is luck based enough where when you see an ability like that, you want it to be more reliable. But man, I think it's awesome. I think he's crazy cool. I don't know if he'll make a splash in the meta or not. Smarter minds might be trying to make him work, but I think he's cool.
I mean, I know this is not a by the case figure, but this is also something that's taking the world by storm a little bit. Is the Master Mold? What do you think about him? Like, is he meta or also like? I mean, he's. I heard that like stores are getting one of him. Like
one.
They're getting
just like one. Just like the initial release of Tri-Sentinel, and hopefully it'll go like Tri-Sentinel where a few months down the line it'll be a sellable figure. I don't know as far as release for this guy goes, but is he meta? Short answer, absolutely. Like anything with a 25-point dial and that much text on its card just has to be good. Like, I mean, when you've got 3 paragraphs, you got half a book for 25 points. Like
I like that your brain is like cheap line words meta. That's so good. It's so good, man.
That's competitive HeroClix to me. I'm
and
like,
the
how
worst
much
part
word
is you're
I
not
get for
wrong,
point?
Even.
That's
like
super rare Wolverine. Look at how much word you get for point. So much word. But I mean, so he's got what, Sentinel, robot, and that's about it, I think, for keywords. But for robot, he brings 25-point leadership. He can kind of retaliate. He's not an actual retaliator. So
you're not playing him for retaliation.
Not at 25 for sure. But he also has that factory dial, which isn't as good of a resource as other resources we've seen, but it's still a resource, like essentially. The fact where, just from rolling leadership and attacking, doing normal HeroClix stuff, if you have a 25-point figure in your back line, you could at some point in the game drop in an extra, 50, 60, whatever point robot figure. And robot's a great keyword. That's a Penny Parker with a triple perplex potentially. That's I don't know why you wouldn't start with it on your team, but that's a robot Magneto or a Danger Room Sabretooth, I guess. All the Sentinels from XDPS, like all the Cerebro, is that the name of it? I don't know. Stealth Sentinel, like all of those have differing point values, and they can be on your sideline at those different values. And it does not take Master Mold that much to crank him up. Like it's literally just doing the normal things that you would do with a robot team, attacking your opponent, not dying. Like that's what those teams are good at right now.
Yeah. Also, another great. I guess it's considered not a convention. I don't know what they consider it, but the Scott Porter bystander. I mean, what was your experience like at the Scott Porter? Did you guys participate in the Scott Porter Invitational or?
So I did not. I was at the Tulsa tournament, so I just bought in some raffle tickets. I got lucky, I got a Scott Porter Pog and a Phoenix Force Magneto, which was like for $30 in raffles.
Wow.
That's awesome. So, but Simeon did actually play, so I'll let him handle that.
Yeah. So I played in the Silver Age event, which I was giving Silver Age a fair shake, and It was the Family Matters event, so you were, I assume you've already talked to people about what the Silver Age event was, but you had to build essentially a team that had at least minimum 2 family members on it, and so I participated in that one. It seemed
To be
like
fair,
it was
they did not
fun...
actually have to be family members. They could be just really
true.
good friends, and then it could be counted as a family team.
It could be like Carol Ferris and Hal Jordan.
Yeah,
who
never
I guess
married,
are
never family.
Yeah, they're close enough.
Close
They're
enough, man.
Real good friends. Or
very platonic relationship.
Or 2 Moloid children. No, I really enjoyed the teams that I played. I played 3 Starjammers teams back to back.
Did you enjoy the teams you played?
I enjoyed the first Starjammers team and then the other 2 not Starjammers teams. I enjoyed all the people I played with. I'll say that.
There you go. That's better.
I definitely enjoyed the Silver Age. Had a much more casual feel to it. I was in like the losing bracket right away, so that might have enhanced how casual it was. But no, I really liked it. Hopped into 3 battle royals. I won one of them. I think I got tanked in the other 2. I'm pretty sure. It was running Wonder Woman, and there's certain things in that where if you pull right, then you pull right, and if you don't, then you just don't. Wonder Woman's such a hard battle royale set, and even like a sealed set, it's just real rough because there's a lot of really solid counters to everything in the set, except for like Zeus, Superman, and a few other things. But no, I enjoyed it. And so since I won a battle royal, I do have a Scott Porter Pog on its way eventually somewhere in the ether. And it's a solid 20-point piece. It's not quite as many words as Master Mold, but
yeah, that's right. You can't fit that many words on the back of a poker chip, though.
No, that's true.
I think when I saw someone, I think it was Jay Solomon, wrote about when it first came out. He said now teams are exclusively 280 points. Do you agree with that? Or
no, Jay is a silly Canadian. He's a funny little man. HeroClix players. He's great. I love Jay. I love him. But people said the same thing about Galactus. Every team is now 275 points. I didn't see more than 2 Galactuses in Tulsa, 300 modern event. Perplex is great. Solid power. 20-point Perplex. That's a cheap enough Perplex to put it on every team. It lets people have a higher chance of crit hits. Yeah, it's good. I don't think it fits every single team, though, That's just the only thing. I don't think every team is 280 points, but I'm not saying it's a bad pog. I'm just saying not every team is 280 points now. It's a good pog, but yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's not
really Jay Solomon.
It's not good enough to build around. You're not building a team around the Scott Porter Pog because essentially, it can be so many things. It can be a taxi. It can use the Defenders team ability. It can sacrifice itself to use X-Men or Titans team ability. It can do all these different things. Fantastic Four, all kinds of different things, including Perplex. And it's not just Perplex. It's a really good Perplex. And it's a real solid little incapper. It can also lock up some opposing characters. Do I think I'd ever build a 280-point team around it? No. That being said, anytime I'm 20 points shy, it'll be considered, but it'll also have to be considered with, a Wendigo and a ring. It'll have to be considered with like all the equipments that are sub 20 points. You've got Exospec still in there. You've got all the Mandarin rings. You've got all the power gems or Infinity Stones. Even the Infinity Gauntlets are 15. So,
30.
It's got to beat all those things out for what it's bringing to my team. And so I feel like HeroClix competitively is so min-max already that a lot of teams aren't going to be adjusted to see Scott Porter in play. You're not going to remove 20 points from your existing meta team to put a Scott Porter Pog on there. You know,
he's really fun and casual. I got my Scott Porter Pog. I played against my wife. I built her a team because she always has me build her a team, and so I always built her like a kind of overpowered team. So I built her a deity themed team with Zeus at 100, Jason, Apollo, and Surtur, right? And then
Okay.
and then my team was Superman from Wonder Woman 80. It was an Amazon themed team. It was Superman, Harley Quinn, Batman, and the super rare Wonder Woman title character. Because I wanted to get that thing off that she does.
Yeah, the -5.
I wanted to get that so bad it didn't happen, but and then I had Scott Porter on my team as well. But the fun part of that game was Scott Porter was really fun. So I did get a crit with Superman, perplexed up from Scott Porter. So I think I rolled an 11. So I was able to get that off. And also, Surtur has a trait that says that characters with incap when they're attacking him get +1 damage. So I actually killed Surtur with Scott
That's
Porter.
Awesome. That's
Nice.
awesome. So, dude, yeah, casually, Scott Porter, I would try to slap him on as many casual teams as possible because, like, he is like A tier HeroClix celebrity, and you know wherever he actually ranks in normal celebrities, you know, but like people love the guy. He's awesome. He's funny. He's great, and it's just like, yo, Scott Porter just sniped Surtur is hilarious. The interactions are just really funny. So
she
yeah,
killed me in
absolutely.
that game, by the way. So she totally destroyed me. Yeah,
Dang,
yeah,
you
but-
made Mrs. Coffee and Clicks maybe too good of a team, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
He's super fun and casual. I mean, I love bystanders. And inherently, I think bystanders are casual because it doesn't take any it takes one click to kill them. Yeah. So I mean, without considering Mudman, who takes like 4 or something, but no, bystanders are super fun because you can get so much utility out of them, and sometimes your opponent just can't hit them, and you're just like, well, that's like the dice decide that you die because of Scott Porter today. You know, and that's just a lot of fun to be able to do.
Yeah. So I mean, last couple of questions for today. I mean, I think we talked about what formats you guys like to play, like meta or casual. What are your just to kind of finish off? I know Kalder, you said that your favorite comic book character is Captain America. Is that right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely, without a doubt. So, Cap's my man. First comic book I ever picked up as a kid. You know, to me that was a character that represented me. He was small and scrawny, but what mattered was that he had heart. You know, he was given. You know, my dad always said, luck is nothing more than preparation and opportunity. Cap, you know, he was a good man through and through. His opportunity was the serum, you know, and then like he stayed a good man. Even when he had the serum, though, my favorite Cap storyline of all time is
Secret
Marvel
Empire.
Is not Secret Empire. Go kill yourself. Oh, sorry, that's rude to say. Is actually Fear Itself, one of Simeon's also favorite storylines. But to me, that's more of a Cap storyline. In the beginning, he gets hit in the head with a brick by a random protester, and then they riot, and he's like, well, dang, we failed, you know, and like he takes that on the chin. He takes losses on the chin, and he loses every single step of the way in that storyline until the very end when he becomes like worthy to hold Mjolnir. You know, spoilers for Fear Itself, like a 8-9-year-old storyline.
15, I think, at this point.
It's super old. But like, dude, you can't, in my mind, Captain America, he's hero of the people, you know, America. I'm a very patriotic person growing up in the heartland, you know, and this isn't really the heartland, but whatever, you know. But I love it. Yeah, Cap's my man. I can't say enough to how much shut up. I really can't say enough how much Cap is just he means so much to me.
So if you had to pick like top three heroes, what would they be?
Yeah, and they all resonate sort of the same, but people won't see him that way. But it's like Captain America #1, Guy Gardner #2. Lex isn't a hero; he's a hero of his own story, so I won't choose Lex Luthor. But I'll choose another favorite Marvel hero I have is War Machine. War Machine, just because he looks cool, right? He's Iron Man, but he's cooler. He's got a Gatling gun and missiles and like little submachine guns on his wrists. So like that's like 90% of the reason I liked War Machine is because when I was a kid, I was like, he looks way cooler than Iron Man. He's like gray and like more militaristic. Like he's just cool. Guy Gardner, you know, he and I have very similar childhoods. If you ever read any like Guy Gardner stuff, so to me that was another character I could just purely relate to. You know, I can be cocky. He's very cocky, you know, and I think people love to hate me as much as they love to hate Guy Gardner. Some people probably actually like me, but I really liked his attitude. You know, I liked that, you know, he stand up to Batman or Superman or anybody, you know, and it's just like, he was confident. He was a cool dude. So like, those are my top three: War Machine, Captain America, Guy Gardner. And honestly,
who would yours be, Simeon?
Yeah.
My number one's always been Wolverine since I was young, since I watched like, you know, the X-Men animated series on TV. I never really like, I don't know if it was teenage angst, just, you know, being like, yeah, angry guy, cool. I get angry sometimes. I understand angry guy. I don't know if that's what it was. You know, I liked Raphael from the TMNT for the same reasons.
Okay, so basically Wolverine. Yeah.
But like, I mean, essentially 3 clawed blades and their size, you know, calm down. It's a gardening implement, I believe. But I think Wolverine, my like for Wolverine went a little bit deeper than that because essentially, you know, as the people's champ, the Rock says, shut up and know your role. Wolverine knew his role, which in the X-Men wasn't like, he wasn't the tactician. He wasn't the big bad guy that was Colossus. You know, he wasn't the strongest or the best out of all of them. But what he could do is he could take a hit and he could get in front of like the blast that other people were going to take. And he would do that all the time in the cartoon series, which I think they did that because they were like, hey, it's a children's cartoon. We can't have him decapitating people. And that's pretty much what Wolverine in the comics does. But no, I just always liked Wolverine for that. Going back to my comment about the death of Superman, the death of Wolverine was way better in my opinion. And of course, I say that because I'm a Wolverine fan and not a Superman fan. But he dies temporarily, sacrificing himself to save people. And you know, Superman was just died punching Doomsday, which I guess he was trying to save people, but was he really, or was he just like, you know, doing a Goku thing, trying to fight somebody? I don't know. That's number one. Number two, you know, the 2 and 3 aren't clixed. They probably never will be, but 2 would easily be Morpheus from the Sandman series.
Okay.
It's
Neil
Vertigo.
Gaiman?
Yeah. Neil Gaiman. Great series, just super well written. Technically it's in the DC universe. I don't know if we'll ever see it in HeroClix. I don't know if I ever want it to be in HeroClix because really you'd never be able to do it justice as far as what the story is. And then 3 would be Marco from the Saga series, which is an Image comic. Very strange space opera kind of story. Very Romeo and Juliet-esque, but with better writing. Sorry, Shakespeare.
Are you a Doom Patrol fan? It sounds like that you like that kind of writing and stuff. Right?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the like, you know, maybe they're in superhero tights, but it's not a superhero story. It's like a human story with superheroes. I'm a big fan of that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
At
like
least when it comes to comics
and stuff like that.
Yeah. The Watchmen series on HBO, I really loved that.
Oh, really?
Did you like
did
American
you not?
Gods? Did you like American Gods? I know if you like Neil Gaiman.
I liked the book. I haven't watched the series yet. But the book was really good. The book was really well done, which I mean, all of his books for the most part are. But yeah, there's so much Image comic stuff out there, and people are like, oh, I wish we could get it HeroClixed. I'm like, Invincible was a great series on Amazon.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. every power set on that show we literally have in HeroClix, because it's not about the characters, it's about the story behind them in that show. So if you were like, man, I really want the Guardians of the Globe, guess what? That's the Justice League. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you guys, but you already got them. You just want the sculpts, and you can get those, like, you know. But yeah, that's just I guess that's my tangent as why HeroClix players are the worst people I've ever.
Oh gosh, that's such a bad soundbite. I'm gonna retract my War Machine answer really quickly. I've got an action figure of him, and I was like, War Machine. For comic book characters, this is another character I just buy every comic of, but it's Howard the Duck. Just because it's like you know what you're doing. It's a stupid comic you're gonna buy. It's not gonna have any impact on the Marvel universe really, and it's a fun time. So I've always enjoyed Howard the Duck for that reason. I was like, man, I can't believe I disrespected my man Howard. Like, that's messed up. But yeah, I love Howard. He's awesome.
The Duck.
Right. Howard the Duck.
I think
no other Howard.
My 3 superheroes that I've always kind of liked were, I mean, nothing too intricate or unusual, but I mean, like minor kind of boring, I guess. But Thor, I really like Thor. I like the hammer. You know, it's just a cool like thing that he does where, you know, you can only be worthy. And by the way, that gives me a lot of respect for Captain America, because he totally is like worthy, and you know, that's kind of his moral. He's kind of like what you said. You know, even with the serum, he still kind of stays true. You know, Spider-Man is another one, and Hawkeye. I think I like Hawkeye a lot because I really like the Matt Fraction Hawkeye series. It was like really cool. I mean, it just portrayed him as like an everyday guy. He doesn't really have powers except for like he can shoot an arrow. And I've always been more of a Marvel guy than DC, so I know like Green Arrow is kind of like the same thing, but like I like Hawkeye. So
I mean, you can't say that your answers are boring when me and Simeon said like 2 of the most popular superheroes. Like, you know, we said like Captain America and Wolverine. You know, like Thor and Spider-Man are on the exact same level as Cap.
I think everybody says Spider-Man, right? Right.
Well, it's because Spider-Man was meant to be the hero everyone could relate to. Because you could be behind that mask, Simeon could be behind that mask. Anyone could, right? He was a kid. Most comic readers were kids who had to fight acne and schoolwork and having a budget. You know, he had a budget, but his budget was to get webs so he could do superhero stuff. My budget is to buy comic books and, you know, Bazooka Joe bubblegum or whatever, right? So like Spider-Man was just a super cool, relatable like character. And so of course you're gonna like, I mean, of course I never fault anyone for liking Spider-Man except for when I do. So I think it totally makes sense that people like Spider-Man.
So the last question for today is something that I ask everybody that comes on the show, or a lot of times I ask the same question. If you were like writing your own HeroClix bio, if you had a chance to be like kind of a fly on the wall, describing yourself as a HeroClix player, how would you describe yourself as a HeroClix player?
I'll go first. Give Kalder a little bit of time to think.
Or as a content creator, or as like a member of the community, however you want to.
I mean, to sum it up, like I think somebody summed it up really well one time. They said edgier Kalder. That was a pretty good summation, except that gave me way too much credit because that means that I'm handsome, I'm approachable, I look homeless. So apparently you haven't seen a recent picture of me if you said that the only difference was that I'm edgy. No, I think a summation of me as a HeroClix player would be like too casual to ever make it big. And I don't say that as like I'm not trying to like pat myself on the back or anything. I truly have tried to be competitive before and break into the competitive. And I've like, you know, I've studied like my formations. I had like a team where I'd like, you know, position them out, and I'd look at them and I'd be like, how could I make this better? And I'd min max it as much as I could. And then when the tournament came and went, I was like, that was so much prep work and so much frustration. And at the end of the day, I didn't even have fun in that tournament. It was actually one of like the tournaments that I was least happy with the outcome, because the whole time I was so focused on my team that I never really talked to anybody. I barely explained what my team did. You know, most people already knew what it did, but after like seeing that, I'm just like, I could never, you know, I'll never be a HeroClix world champion. So like, I think, you know, too casual to ever make it big is a pretty decent, epitaph on my headstone, because I'll truly just, the only way I would ever be able to be a world champion would either be in team sealed, which I got top 8 in 2018, so it's not out of the question. It's just close to out of the question. Or if I just got like extremely lucky with a team I really liked someday. But no, I even have trouble exploiting, like, when they first came down and said try Sentinel, like, could work with a free action. You could like walk your entire speed value and then activate this free and just KO opposing characters. I had a hard time doing that because I was like, I get that this is like the competitive move, but it's just so ugly and gross. Why would I ever do this to another human? And then Jonah did it to me with Surtur, and I was like, all right, I'll do it. Jonah Fleming.
Way to call him out, man. Oh, that's awesome.
I like how you dropped the last name too. You're just like,
he did. Fleming.
like,
It's okay. No one will ever see Jonah at a tournament in years. He's just a kid that plays in Sioux Falls. He's good, but he's he's actually really
he
really
came
good
so close to beating me, and then he has beat me at least once.
Oh, dude. Side tangent on Jonah. Every time we do 300 modern practice, he beats me. Day of the tournament, cream him, and I love that. I love that about our relationship. It's so good.
Because he never sees me coming in with the cheat codes.
That's
I'm like, oh, 3 damage, 1 click, 2 click, 3 click. Oh, he's not KO.
All right. But to answer your question, Anthony, about like a little whatever, how we sum up ourselves as Heroclix players. I really like, it's swearing, but it's going to be for, it's a movie title. So Kick-Ass 2 has Colonel Stars and Stripes in it. And I loved that character when I saw that movie. Absolutely loved him. My favorite line of his is have fun. Otherwise, what's the point? And these guys are being superheroes, right? And so that's the quote I try to live the most in my life every day. No matter what I'm doing, am I having fun? If not, why am I doing it? Life's too short to not have fun. I played in Tulsa. I played 300 modern. I had fun with my buddies. I lost every game but won that day. But every single game was fun. And I looked at my opponent. We shook hands. And they were like, dude, that was such a great game. If you look at any recorded game that I do, I normally play fast and loose. I try to play normally as fast as possible. Some games, my brain is breaking down. It doesn't work. My state win against Unimind is like a 20-minute game because I'm just go, go, go. It's how I like playing. But I want the game to be fun. I want the guy across from me to have a good time, and I want to have a good time. That's my goal in every single game. And that's my goal when I make content, because people don't get it. They're like, look, when you make content, just talk on your little show, open some Heroclix like everybody else, do a team building video. Those are the videos that Heroclix creators do. Just stick to that, buddy. It's what we expect from you. And I'm like, that's cool. But then, I want to dress up as each member of the Fantastic Four and then almost start my arm on fire. I want to do a bad Spider-Man cosplay and make a little scene. I want to shoot and destroy Heroclix or cut off UPCs with the chainsaw. I want to convince Simeon to let me hit him with steel chairs while we play a WWE game. I want to eat hot wings as we play games and watch our brains slowly melt and suffer because it's fun. I just want to make this game as fun as possible. And that's my goal. I want to make people smile and laugh and stuff. So I just think Heroclix should all be about having fun and the camaraderie and, fellowship that can happen in this game, really.
Yeah, those are great answers. I totally agree. I mean, Heroclix is, it's a game, and games are meant to be fun. So I think great answer, both of you. So I wanted to say to everybody at home, or everybody's watching YouTube right now, thank you for watching. Once again, I'm Tlish. You've been watching our conversation with Kalder, Ness, and Simeon Bruce from Dial H For Heroclix. And have a good night, everybody. And don't forget, everybody, wake up and smell the clicks.